What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the MLO Project featuring none other than my fearless co-host, not fearful, but fearless co-host, Mr. McAllister, Michael McAllister. Michael, what's up, buddy?
What's up? How are we doing this morning?
We're doing fantastic because this is going to be a big week for us. We got a huge announcement that we're going to touch on. We're going to touch on real quick right now, and then it'll be throughout the podcast. You'll see what we're talking about because we're going to get a little bit more in depth in that. But my friends, well, actually, instead of setting this table, why don't you just take it away, Michael? What are we doing this week? What's happening?
Dude, we're changing the game, if that wasn't cliche enough for everybody listening. We are launching we're calling it High Level for Mortgage Pros 2.0. That's our teaser. It's got a legit name to it that will launch on Thursday as part of the reveal and whatnot. But basically, it is the second iteration of the number one digital marketing community in the mortgage industry, which is High Level for Mortgage Pros. We've got a whole stack of free shit that we're giving out with that to people that are members, including course content, snapshots, etc. Private community. We've got, we're opening up access to open office hours, which is an internal Empower LO thing. One of our biggest value propositions is open office hours. And we're opening up access to that to an exclusive group of High Level for Mortgage Pros members. So it's a huge week, really exciting. We've already got 60 registrants and just started promoting it a couple days ago. So we're really excited. And it should be a big week, man.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for it. And so you may be asking yourself, well, what's the difference, what it is? And obviously come to the webinar. It's in the show notes for the link to register, because we're going to give all of that away and fill you in. But what I can tell you is it comes down to this. We get a lot of questions because one of the challenges when it comes to high level in the mortgage industry is that it's fragmented. So you think about Android phones, and this isn't a dig on Android phones, but it's when you look at Androids, is everyone's got a different version of their Android phone, not just different technology providers like a Samsung, for example, or a Google or whatever, that create their own Android phones, but you also have carrier versions of those phones. And so when you go and look, I want an Android phone, if you go get an iPhone, you're going to get an iPhone 16, 15, whatever it is. It's very simple. You go get an Android, you got 500 different options of Android phones that you can get, right? And so it creates a very fragmented experience. The same goes for High Level, because anyone could sign up for High Level, right? And a lot of people do. A lot of people regret signing up for it because they don't understand that they're not getting some out of the box, everything works solution like they're used to getting with, a pipe drive or something. I mean, you still always have to configure your CRM, but they're not used to having, and then not only that, but you can literally do pretty much anything with High Level. And so it adds a layer of complexity. So what we found is that, obviously as Empower LO, we provide a done for you high level instance that we configure and support and everything else, just like a normal CRM company would do. But what we found is that a lot of people will sign up for this service, sign up for that service, whatever, and it comes with a version of High Level because that's how the service is delivering the product right now. Obviously, if they're well, we want to work with you at Empower, we guys are great. You guys know what your stuff and whatnot. And, but they're all, but we don't want another high level expert, instance. So we're going to solve that. We're going to solve that with this new offering. And I haven't said too much, but I've said enough. And so we want you to come to the webinar so you can see exactly what this looks like. The point is that we're going to be able to help everyone, and it just cements our position as the experts in High Level in the mortgage industry. It's a new evolution of where loan officers are going, especially brokers who generally run their own tech stack anyway. This is something that they're going to want to watch. And so we're excited to do that. Did I leave anything out, Michael, or was that good? Did I give too much away, or did I just?
No, I think that was on the money. I think we're yeah. If you listen to that and it wasn't enticing and you're using High Level, well, then I guess we'll see you on the other side.
Look, and it comes down to this. If you're interested in high level or you're using high level and you're not using it through us, you're going to want to be on this webinar 100%. So with that, let's get into today's episode, because we're still talking not necessarily about high level, but we're talking about CRMs and automation. And so Michael has put together a list of automations. I looked at it. It was garbage. So I made my own list of 5 automation. No, I'm just kidding. No, he actually put together a pretty extensive list. Michael's better at high level by far than I am. So whenever I make those jokes, just know it's a joke, because I'm not at the same level as Michael when it comes to high level. But he's put together an extensive list of 5 marketing automations that every loan officer should be using, and we're going to talk about that today. So Michael, pinch us off a deuce. Let's go.
Oh no. No. Oh man. Oh god. I always got to throw the curveballs my way. Holy shit. Hold on. Give me a second to recover after that one.
So I apologize for those at home. That was that might have been a little bit too far, but it might, or maybe not far enough. Let's go. Let's see what happens.
Let's see. Yeah, we've got five marketing automations. We'll see if we get through all 5 of them. But the 5, what I identified as like the most important marketing automations that everybody should have in their business. Obviously, like you can see how this theme kind of ties into our high level for mortgage pros like reveal happening this week. However, we'll dive into this and you'll see, like, although everything I talk about can be done in high level and you might not be able to find that in another platform, ultimately this episode is about the automations themselves and not high level, because you can replicate all of these automations and platforms outside of high level. So
sweet. Kick us off. Let's go.
Yeah, that said, automation number 1, the number 1 most important automation. And if you've been dabbling in marketing automation for a while, then this one's going to be like your elementary basic building block, potentially one of the first automations you ever implemented, especially if you're working internet leads. But this is now applying more and more to leads beyond internet leads as well. We're seeing LOs that are receiving referrals using this automation as well. And that is a instant lead response autoresponder. So lead comes in, and depending on where the source, what the lead source is, so if it's a referral or an internet lead or a FSBO data entry that you purchased, or whatever it is, automated lead response is absolutely crucial these days. Statistics have never been friendly to those that sit on their leads and don't respond to them right away. But the numbers that, originally there was like a Harvard business study, like the lead response management study that was done in like the mid 2000s. That was the source of a lot of data around like, hey, if anybody ever heard, like it takes an average of 8 times reaching out to a prospect to be able to qualify them. Like that was from that lead response management study. 83% of leads go the first 30 minutes without a follow-up or something like that. That was the lead response management study. Well, we pulled data from some newer sources, and it's pretty crazy the metrics that like signify the importance of this automation. So first off, Harvard Business Review says that you have a 391% boost to your conversion rate when you respond in under 1 minute versus after 1 minute. So that's almost 4 times the likelihood of converting a lead when you respond within a minute versus outside of that minute. Okay. That number goes to 100 times when you look at 5 minutes versus 30 minutes. This is via insidesales.com. So if you get in contact with the lead within the first 5 minutes of that lead engaging with you, filling out a form, getting referred to you by the real estate agent, whatever it is, you have 100 times more, like higher likelihood of getting in contact with them versus waiting 30 minutes, which is freaking nuts. So this is, like I said, this is basics. If you've been doing marketing automation for a while, there's a lot of different stuff that you could do this, but usually you're setting up ringless voicemails, text messages, emails, and just giving the impression that like you're Johnny on the spot and you're ready to help them with whatever it is that they're looking for.
Yeah, and it's you guys have heard the term speed the lead, speed the contact. This is just cementing that, and it just shows that it hasn't gone away. Now, a lot of times you'd be like, "Well, I do this," and they don't. It's because that's just the nature of the business. The point is that you want to make the contact. And here's the thing that some of you may be listening and be like, well, that's table stakes. I know that. I know this or whatever. I will tell you straight up of someone that's done internet leads at a high level, at the highest level. Most loan officers don't follow this at all. Right. And I know loan officers that don't talk to leads for days and internet leads, and then then they get upset when they end up going with someone else. And just know that it's a contact sport, so not everyone's equipped to play the game, but if you're going to play the game, make sure you have these automations in place.
Yep, 100%. Automation number 2. This one's cool. We're gonna get into some ones that are like a little bit less obvious, and this is one of those. This is abandoned application reminders. So one of the things that we do when we set up our clients with an Arrive integration is we set up separate pipeline stages for application started and application completed, because we know from our experience that this is a huge drop off. And the data that we pulled, this is actually from a Fannie Mae survey done this year. The drop off rate of applications of mortgage applicants who abandon the process completely mid application, 33%. 33% of
Wow.
mortgage applicants who start an application never complete it. That's crazy, because these are the people like we've obviously been in the consumer direct space for a while. One of the things that has done is given us a real appreciation for how valuable the 1003 is as part of converting a lead in the process. And like, what do I mean by this? Well, when we first started helping loan officers work leads, we saw a lot of the times loan officers would talk themselves out of pre-qualifying the borrower up front, or talk the borrower out of applying up front, based on what they perceive to be the challenges of the borrower. And so, meaning they think this borrower is going to have a hard time qualifying, and therefore they give the borrower more hoops to jump through before they submit the application. Well, what we found after secret shopping Rocket back in like 2017, 2018, and then also talking to a lot of former Rocket LOs, what we found is that Rocket actually, and I don't know if this is still the case today, I would imagine so, but I don't know for sure. They had set up their comp plan for their consumer direct division like an assembly line, where the person who talks to the borrower and tries to get them to apply, they're licensed, but they are not compensated on their closed loan volume. They're compensated based on the number of TRID packages they send out and get returned, signed back to them, meaning they get compensated based on applications and commitments. And so what did that result in? That resulted in them not caring at all whether or not that person qualified. Rocket did this for years, and again, still might do this to this. Like, I haven't heard any information that they have changed this practice at all. This expresses the crucial nature of getting a 1003 in converting a mortgage. Like, that is the only commitment we can get. We don't charge application fees anymore. We don't charge good faith deposits, other than, maybe at the point of appraisal, but all of that stuff has to happen after an application is received. And so the fact that 33% of people, 33% of applicants abandon their application mid-application and never complete it, shows that this is a huge opportunity. So setting up this automation, this looks like, application gets started, and then through your automation platform and high level, it's really easy. You're implementing like a 24-hour, or depending on what your tolerance is for this, like it could be an 8-hour or a 4-hour wait period, where you're saying, okay, they started the application. Now I'm going to wait until whatever that time period is. And at the end of that period, I'm going to see, did they finish their application? And if they didn't, I'm going to initiate a follow-up sequence. And that's what this looks like. This is huge. This is something that our highest performing clients have had in place for a while. But it shocks me all the time to know like how many LOs and brokers don't have something like this in place.
Yeah, and that's when you look at the stats, and look, I could tell you from I remember we used God, I can't remember the name. It was Alamode, right? So those are mortgage vets out there, you probably remember Alamode, especially as a lender, and it was like the worst technology that you could do for like your mortgage. Like our website, like our company's corporation website was built off of this. It was horrid, horrendous, not mobile responsive, but it had the built-in online application, which was like the big get, right? The amount of orphaned applications that we would have to go through in a month, right? Honestly, that 33% is low to me, right? It was definitely higher, and just trying to find orphan apps, people not doing the right, like it is a problem, and things fall through the cracks. And when you're talking about Rocket and what they did, is because they understood that like there's the mortgage, regardless of like how you look at everything, it is an assembly line, right? That's why, like at our company, we use Kaizen as our philosophy, continuous improvement, which was based off of the Japanese framework of an assembly line, right? And so, like, that's where that came from, because that's really what the loan process is, and they understand like crucial, like what each step and stage mattered in order to get to the stuff that really mattered. And so that's why that was built that way, and that's why it's important for you guys to know, like when you're doing that, like you don't want to lose touch. And this next one is going to be even more important.
Yeah. Yeah. This next one, this is cool. This data point actually gave me more hope and excitement than any data point in this presentation. And so before I name the automation, I'm gonna go into this data point, this statistic. Okay. So according to Freddie Mac, 84% of borrowers who or 84% of borrowers only consider 1 to 2 lenders before locking their loan. Okay. And so why is this important? Because the next automation is about pre-approval follow-up and staying in touch with the pre-approvals that you have. This market has been, over the last couple of years, this market has desensitized us to the value of a pre-approval, because we've had so many pre-approvals that don't end up going anywhere because they're priced out of the market, or they're sitting on a 2.5% rate on their first mortgage, and so they don't plan on moving anytime soon or buying a second home. And so what it's done is it's made it so that we don't look at pre-approvals the same way that we used to. We just had last week's episode actually was the episode with Chris Lamb, and Chris Lamb tells a story about how he like felt really good about his business at one point because he had like 200 pre-approvals in his pipeline, but he didn't stay in touch with so many of them that when he went back and actually went through and got in contact with them, a lot of them had already bought a house. And he ended up like really realizing that his pre-approvals weren't as valuable as he thought they were. But this automation, a pre-approval follow-up, a pre-approval nurture, a strong process for nurturing your pre-approvals, that would have changed everything. And to me, this statistic of 84% of borrowers only consider 1 to 2 lenders before locking their loan, that proves it. That proves to me, that means, hey, I got like, if I have a pre-approval and that borrower ends up going with somebody else, odds are it's because I didn't do the bare minimum of staying in touch with them, staying in front of them, and making sure that they know that like I'm here for them when they need them. Right. Uh, Go
Oh,
for
I
it,
was
Chris.
gonna say, and guys, like you may think, like, oh, well, that's. I have conversations all the time. They're like, yeah, I haven't talked to. I had some pre-approvals. Haven't talked to them in about like a month or two, and I'm like, are you like those are opportunities, right? Like you were looking at like your first conversion point, really, of we just talked about it, like getting the application, like pre-approving someone. Once you spend all that time, effort, and money, right? Because you're trying to bring that lead in to get to that pre-approval stage in the beginning, and then you just kind of like forget about it and you lose touch, right? Like this is again super important, and you may think that like that's obvious, but I hear that more times than I could count.
That dichotomy though, right? Like like it's like you either have a mind for sales and you're focused so much on leads all the time that you like step over opportunities left and right that are already sitting in your pipeline, Or you're on the opposite side of the equation, and we all know this LO, this was me as an LO, is you end up babysitting your pipeline too much and not chasing like more leads. And so this is really directed towards those that have the sales mindset down and are focused on acquiring more leads, but are doing that in lieu of like converting the opportunities that they have that are closest to the payday, closest to like that conversion point.
Yeah.
So what does this look like? What does this look like? This is like a 45, a 45-day cadence is what I would set this up on. And then after that 45 days, you're getting in touch with them to potentially like refresh their pre-approval or take a second look or whatever it is. But that cadence is going to look something like, first week is going to be all about like, pulse on the market, maybe rate lock timing recommendations if you do that for your borrowers. If you don't, then yeah, it's going to be more about generating excitement, generating and keeping excitement going. Then days 8 through 21, this is when you probably want to start getting the agent involved. If you haven't been like super involved with the agent already. Obviously, I think that when you pre-approve a borrower, the first thing you should do is get in touch with the agent and let them know that you've got them pre-approved. But during that first 7 days, like obviously there's some excitement between them. There's not a lot of onus on you to like keep the agent excited. But once you get past day 7, day 10, and by these are people that are potentially shopping, right? If they're not shopping, if they're one of those people that were kind of priced out of the market, it's going to be a slower burn for sure. You're probably looking at more like, reach out a couple times a week, maybe even once a week, but you got to make sure that they're thinking of you. You got to make sure that like when that thought crosses their mind, oh, I want to see what, I want to see what it's like to buy this house. I want, it'll happen where like they tell you they're not interested. The buyer tells you they're not interested because of, whatever their situation is at the time. They say, yeah, maybe in 6 months or whatever. You follow up 6 months later. It happens all the time. They've already bought a house because somebody else did the work of asking enough questions and staying in front of them. So yeah, this pre-approval, like if you've gotten them all the way to the point of pre-approval and you're not nurturing them once they're pre-approved, you're leaving a lot of money on the table.
Totally.
Automation number 4. This is another like
the Quattro. The Quattro. Yeah. Hit us up.
The 4P. This one is Google review requests. And I say Google. I always am gonna like pitch Google as like the spot that you should be getting,
as you should, and anything else just is worthless, right? It's worth. Yeah. Now I say, I want to dig in here real quick. Yes, yeah. I know a lot of people will say like, hey, well, I get leads all the time off of Zillow. Like Zillow is your competitor, right? And then this isn't like tinfoil hat, like crap. Like they're a mortgage lender, right? And so like, would you send your clients to leave your review on, if you're, like, are you going to send them to Rocket's website to leave them a review? Are you going to send them to Cross Country's website? Or are you going to send them to Movement More? Like, if that's not your company, no, of course you wouldn't. Right. But for Zillow, you just, because they didn't start that way, you're like, oh, I'll just do that and I get leads from it. So just know that guys, the reason they do it is because there's a benefit to them with the data. So don't think that there's not. So like, if you're not doing Google reviews, like you really are at a disadvantage.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, like I'm also somebody that's going to say like, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. There's a platform out there called experience.com. And even High Level has this.
Don't mention that in front of Hammer.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, I don't know a lot about it. I'd be interested to hear what Hammer has to say. We've had a couple clients with Fulcrum that are insistent on keeping their experience.com set up. And I looked into it a little bit and saw, High Level has this feature built in where you can do like, what do they call it? Load balancing with your reviews. You can hook up multiple review sources, mm-hmm. Yelp, Zillow, Google My Business, and they have a whole bunch of different ones that you can hook up. And then you can set it up to where it's like, hey, when I've gotten 3 reviews in a row over here, send a review over here. And there's like a gating process that makes that possible and stuff. So, yeah. So like I said, I get the value of having one other review source besides Google, just in case Google decides to go freaking bonkers on us and change everything on a dime. Because that's just, I mean, that's just how I think, how I operate, is like, I always want to have a backup plan. So I get that, but like, there's no question at this point, which platform should be your primary, which platform you should be like mainly focused on and getting these reviews. And that's Google Business Profile. So automate that. How do you automate that? You set up, you can set up an automation as a week after closing. Some people are good at getting reviews during the process. So you get somebody pre-approved that didn't think they should be approved, and you ask for a review at that point in the process. And some people are really good at doing that and get a lot of reviews for that reason. But essentially you set up a automation, and depending on what platform you have, this is possible in high level. You set up an automation that is set to stop once a review is received from somebody. And so you're talking to them, you're reaching out, you're saying, what we typically do is, and again, this is technically review gating. So hopefully nobody from Google is listening to this, but they can't really, there's no way to really enforce this. What we do is we'll send a 1-question survey out to the borrower in the form of just a question and an email of like, would you recommend, based on your experience, would you recommend us to a friend, or would you say that you received a 5-star experience, or something like that? That's just a yes or no, or a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And then based on that thumbs up or thumbs down, if it's a thumbs down, then we're redirecting them to a feedback form that directs the feedback directly to us. And if they give us a thumbs up, then we're linking directly to the Google Business Profile and asking them to leave a review there. And so if you can do this, and then at the point that you get a commitment from them, make getting the commitment super easy. That's why we do the thumbs up, thumbs down thing.
Yep.
Is because once we get that thumbs up, that commitment from them, then the follow-up game is on at that point. Now it's like, I'm going to follow up every, a couple times a week and just say, hey, just hadn't seen that review yet. I, really appreciate you being willing to share your experience, et cetera. And at the end of the day, you can go as aggressive with this as you want to be, or like as hands off as you want to keep it. But it's just, asking for reviews is kind of uncomfortable for a lot of salespeople. So if you can automate that process, it's not only the time savings, but it's one of those instances of something that you probably wouldn't do even if you had the time to do it, because doing it manually is just like, there's just that level of discomfort of like, oh, I gotta ask for a review.
Yeah. And Experience, so they used to be called Social Survey, and then they changed their name, Experience. So Scott Harris is the one that owns Experience. I know him well. So their headquarters, I don't know if it is today, but it used to be in San Ramon, so my hometown. And so I used to be on the advisory board. I was one of their first clients at my mortgage company.
I didn't know that was your hometown. That's where CMG's at. That's where
Chris CMG. Chris Michael George. Yeah. So their CMG Plaza is right across, not anymore because we moved, but my mortgage company was across the street from CMG. So
yeah, that's right. Anyways, but you were saying anyway, Sam Ramon.
Oh yeah, so the good people, Scott Harris is the owner, founder of Experience, and so yeah, check it out, guys. Like there is some validity in using this. I was just mentioned because Hammer is not a fan, so that's just kind of just some fun. We should have him on here so we could talk about that. But like,
we need to.
But I know a lot of people that like you mentioned Fulcrum, and I know a lot of other loan officers who dig using the tool.
Yeah.
All right, what's number 5?
Number 5. To me, this is less of an automation. I have it listed as an automation, and it can be an automation, but in 2025, to me, it's less important for this to be an automation and more important for this to be a consistent pillar in your business. Mm-hmm. And this is just your standard long-term nurture sequence. Yep. Okay. Now, the difference between how I talk about this today and how I would have talked about this 2 or 3 years ago is that I wouldn't honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that this is a conversation about marketing automations, I wouldn't even refer to this as an automation or a nurture sequence anymore. To me, this should be the closest word that I can find to resemble what I think of around this is ecosystem. This is something that is a consistent way to engage with you, for you to put out real content that reflects your thoughts and provide some differentiation on a consistent basis, even once a week or once every other week to start with, is a-okay with this. But basically you just need to have a process for making sure. And ideally in the mortgage industry, ideally this is something that serves like if you market consumer direct and you work with real estate agents, then ideally you have something like some newsletter or something like that. Like a newsletter is, I should have led with that. A newsletter is like the easiest, lowest hanging fruit implementation of this. And this is an alternative to what used to be your long-term nurture sequence where you have an email predefined every 2 weeks on a 12-month sequence. But shit changes so fast nowadays that by the time you wrote, or by the time people got to your 12th month of content, if you wrote it 12 months ago, you'd be beating yourself in the head going, why did I write that? Why did I, like, that makes no sense. I don't, whatever. This doesn't reflect my brand. This doesn't, like, things evolve a lot faster than they did 2 or 3 years ago with AI and with like market conditions. Like when things are good, things typically stay the same. When things are challenging, innovation is happening constantly to try and break through that. So what does that mean? That means that in your marketing to your consumers, you have to be a little bit more engaged than just setting up long-term nurture sequences, 2 emails a month for 12 months. Like that just doesn't cut it anymore. And so what's the solution? The solution's setting up a newsletter, setting up a community, setting up some form of ecosystem, a online course marketplace, like some sort of ecosystem that you can tie all of your other marketing into, so that no matter what drip campaigns you do or don't have at other places in the process, you have a consistent way of engaging with your brand, a consistent way to stay in front of your prospects, stay in front of your prospective referral partners, et cetera. And again, if you're just starting out with this, do your best to make these things overlap. If you market to agents and you market to your consumers, find a topic, find a newsletter that you can write that appeals to both of them. It doesn't need to always be that way, because that's not going to be the optimal like setup long-term for you. But it's a great way to make sure that you can get started and just get in the habit of sending something consistently out to your database once a week, twice a month, whatever that is.
Yeah. And guys, look, I know because we have a lot of this stuff, right, that we have in our snapshots and stuff. And again, you'll learn a lot more of this on Thursday, but, I get that all the time with like, hey, I need a long-term drip or whatever. And guys, like it's easy to create generic shit, right? That you could send out. And like was Michael was saying, because I've done that a lot, is, over my time in this industry of creating nurture sequences and doing that. You're right. Like because you have to be very generic in order for it to be kind of like good for all seasons. And that's what you're asking for. So the more personalized, the more on topic you can be, and less
Timely.
and yeah, exactly. Like that's what matters. And is it more effort? Yes. But here's what I'll tell you is with AI and a lot of these other things, like it's going to get, I won't say easier, but it's going to get a lot more effective to be able to be timely, and a lot more effective to send a personalized message. Because that's really what clients need right now is they need personalization and customization. They don't need everything to everyone, because ultimately that's what you're competing against, is their attention. And if they feel that it's just general generic shit, then they're not going to care about it. If they feel like you're talking to them and solving a challenge or answering a question that they have, then that's the first step in retaining not just that attention, but that business in the long term.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, think an easy low hanging fruit example of this is like the difference between if you are a local LO and you market local to your market and don't go out and don't do a lot of marketing outside your market, or outside your market's not a part of your core strategy. Just think about the difference in having a nurture campaign generically written by the CRM company, that 100 other LOs or 1,000 other LOs across the country are using. It has to be timely at all times, which means not timely ever, right?
Yep.
It has to be relevant all the time, which really also means not relevant ever,
Mhm.
ever. It has to be relevant in every part of the country, which means not super relevant to any one part of the country. And so think about the difference between that and writing that nurture sequence, or every couple weeks sending out a newsletter about stuff that's going on in your local market.
Yeah.
Like what's how much better is your open rate going to be? How much better is your engagement going to be? How much more are people going to be thinking about you? And it's just like, that is a really simple, like, again, low hanging fruit example of like, you could do so much better than a local happenings newsletter every couple of weeks. But if you don't have any other ideas, that's going to do way better than using your long-term nurture sequence that your CRM provider put together.
Yeah. Well said, my friend. Well said. Well, my friends, that is Mr. McAllister's top 5 marketing automations. And, look, join us on Thursday, because we're going to be talking a lot about this. And, obviously not talking just about automations, but we're talking about all the different things that we're going to be able to provide and help, and the value we're going to do. But, stay connected with us, because this is, the automation piece is important, and everyone, you can't over automate. That's something we've talked about in the past. And, but ultimately it comes down to this: is automation helps you, it helps you stay consistent, right? That's really what it comes down to, because we know consistency is always a problem with pretty much everything on every level. And so this marketing automation is something that's going to help not only buy back some of your time, but keep you consistent. And that's why we wanted to talk about that today. So, my friends, that is a wrap on another episode of the MLO Project. On behalf of Mr. McAllister, I am Frazier. This episode and this podcast is brought to you by Empower LO. We are the high-level mortgage, or high-level pros and experts for mortgage professionals like yourself. And got tripped up there a little bit. Just trying
We'll work on it.
We'll work on that one on the next one. So thanks for all of your understanding. We if you guys have any ideas on topics that you want us to cover and whatnot, like, we're gonna go all over the place. But we have a lot of good ones coming up your way, as well as some great interviews. And make sure, guys, if you haven't checked out the episode with Chris Lamb, make sure you checked out, because he brought some serious fire to that episode. So we will see you on the next episode. Until then, have an amazing day. Take care.